Hey guys, alright, so I'm gonna level with you here. I'm not much of a cook, okay? And I'm in way over my head here when it comes to making this Frosto Marshall Choco cereal. I've got people ringing my phone off the hook, asking me for boxes, asking me for shipments of it, and I got nothing. I'm not an Iron Chef by any stretch of the means. I'm not even like an aluminum foil chef. I'm like pretty bad at this whole thing. So, could really use your help if you guys are up for it today. As you can see, I've made a mess of my kitchen. And I'm just hoping you guys can maybe bail me out a little bit. So here's the deal. Later on today, I have 5 people coming up to pick up some orders of this cereal. And so far, I've only made about 8 boxes of it, which isn't bad, but my problem is I can't figure out how much I need to give each of those 5 people. So I only have 8 boxes, 5 people coming to get it. I'm not sure how much I should give each person. So I know there's going to be some division or something in there somewhere, but we got decimals and different things going on. So I'm hoping that maybe you guys can help me out and help me solve this problem. So I figure maybe let's go up to the virtual classroom. Let's take a look at this together and see what we can come up with. See if we can come up with some sort of game plan or strategy or something that'll work to help me figure out how much I need to give each person. All right. All right, everyone. So I think I got the mess totally cleaned up, even though I still have some flour in my ear, but I think we're good now. So thank you guys for joining me back here so we can actually talk about dividing up some decimals and see what happens when there's a remainder left over and what we can do with that remainder. So we're going to go through a couple examples real quick, see if that can help us out, and then we'll see if we can apply it to some real world situations as well. So if you would, make sure you have your place value chart, something to write on, something to write with, and that you're following along with me as we go through. So as soon as you got that stuff gathered up, hit continue and we'll keep moving. All right, guys, so my first example here, I have 1 and 7/10, and we're dividing that by 2, okay? So we've done division of decimals before, okay? It kind of works in the same way that we divide whole numbers. We just have to remember about like the decimal place and stuff like that as we go through. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to draw out 1 and 7/10 on my place value chart here. So I'm going to start by drawing my whole number of 1. So I'm just going to draw 1, 1 right here. I'm even going to color it in, make it look pretty. Then I'm going to draw some tenths, and I have 7/10, so I'm going to put 7/10 here. And I'll draw those in green. Okay, so I've represented my number of 1 and 7/10. 1 and 7/10, okay? 1, 7/10, easy enough. But I'm going to divide that into 2 groups, right? Into 2 groups, I'm going to divide that 1 and 7/10. All right, easy enough. What we've done in the previous lessons, what I could do is I'm going to draw 2 groups down. We'll do 1 group, 2 groups, and I'm just going to start moving my place value discs, my little dots up here, into these correct spots, and I'm going to divide them up evenly among these 2 groups, okay? I think we can handle that. So let's start by taking this 1 whole, and we're going to put him here, and then in this group, I'm going to, I don't have another hole in this, so how can I divide this? I only have 1 of them, but I have 2 groups that I need to divide it by. What can I do? So can our 1 be divided into 2 groups? For right now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to see that we can unbundle this 1 into tenths, and it's going to make it a little bit easier for us to divide. So before I even start with that, as we go along and we're using the place value discs to help us and kind of move stuff around, I'm also over here, I'm going to be following along by doing the standard algorithm, right? So we have that 1 and 7/10, and we're dividing that by 2. So basically what I'm saying first here is I can't divide 2 into 1. I can't do that, right? So 2 is going to go into 1 0 times. It's just not going to happen, okay? And 2 times 0 is 0. I could subtract, and that would leave me 1. 1 minus 0 is 1. And then I don't know what I'm going to do next. But what I can do to help me divide by using my place value discs here is I could take this 1 whole and I could bring it over here, and as soon as it crosses that line, it's going to unbundle and it's going to come apart and into tenths, okay? So that 1 1 is now going to become 10 tenths. Awesome. So I no longer have 1 1, right? It won't go into it. We can't divide it. But now I've brought that 1 1 over and I've made 10 tenths with it, okay? Easy enough. So now altogether, how many tenths do I have? All right, well, if I were to count these up, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 tenths, right? So I'm going to write that here as 17, and if I was following along with the standard algorithm, I would bring down that 7, right, which would leave me with 17/10. Awesome. So now I could start dividing these up. These I can divide into two groups, right? So I could start taking those 17 and I could put them into the two groups. So I'm just going to start moving them over and crossing them off as I did. Put one here, cross this guy off. I'll put the next guy here. This guy will go here. So I've gotten 3 in there so far. Right here. You get the idea. So why don't you guys go ahead and do the same thing, start crossing them off, putting them into the groups, and let's see what we come up with. All right, I have divided them up. Okay, I crossed out all these guys that I don't need. I'm actually going to go back and do that in red so they stand out a little bit better. So going through that now, I've reached another kind of a conundrum. I'm kind of stuck again because I divided them up evenly, and each group now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So each group has 8, but I still have 1/10 left over. And I can't put him in one of the groups because if I do that, my groups will be uneven, right? So I don't want to do that. So what can I do now to solve this problem? Well, if this was a typical division problem with whole numbers, we could just say that I have a remainder of 1. But what's cool about decimals is that I can actually keep going. And I can make this smaller and smaller and smaller until hopefully there's no remainder left over at all. We don't want a remainder in our decimals. So let's see how we do that. Well, just like before when I took my 1 and I unbundled it into tenths, I can take my 10th and I can unbundle it into what? Hundredths, right. So 1/10 will make 10 hundredths. All right, perfect. So I have 10 hundredths. So let's just kind of back up a little bit to finish filling in our standard algorithm chart down here. So I took those 17/10ths that I had and I divided them into two groups. That gave me 8 in each group, right? 8 in each group. So 2 times 8 gave me 16. There were 16 total. And if I subtract from there, I'm left with 1, right? That one guy that was hanging out all by himself right here. So that 1, I'm going to move to the hundredths place, which I had 0 hundredths, right? 0 hundredths. If I bring that down, when I break it down, when I unbundle that hundredth, it leaves me with 10. So I'm taking that 10th, I'm breaking it down into the hundredths, I'm unbundling it into hundredths, and that gives me 10 hundredths, okay? So now these 10 hundredths that I have left, I'm going to start putting them into my groups and see if I can get them in there evenly. So I could take this guy, put him here. All right, so I kind of overflowed out of my groups a little bit here, but we get the idea. So I took those hundredths, those 10 hundredths, and I was able to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in each group, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So coming back over here with our standard algorithm, I was able to put 5 in each group. 5 times 2 is 10, and I'm kind of running out of space down there. We would have 10, 5 times 2 is 10. We subtract those two, and now we don't have any remainders left over, right? I was able to use each one of these, so we're good with that. So our answer would be 85 hundredths. So 1 7/10 divided by 2 equals 85 hundredths. How could we check that? How could we make sure that we did our math right? Well, I could take the answer that we got of 85 hundredths. I can multiply that by 2, and I should get 1.7. So let's see, 2 times 5 give me 10. I'll put my 0 there, carry my 1 up here. 2 times 8 is 16 plus 1 more is 17. And if we use I have 2 places after my decimal here, so I need 1, 2 places after my decimal in the answer. 1, 2. So there we go. That's where I could place my decimal there. So it checks out. So it gets a little trickier with that remainder because we don't want to stop once we have a remainder. We want to see how small we can go until there's no remainder left. So let's take a look at one more example and see if that helps us kind of get a better idea of how this skill works. All right, so let's take a look at this example. This time we have 17 divided by 4. Okay, so we're starting with a whole number. We don't even have a decimal in this one. But we know if we take this 17 and divide it by 4 into even groups, we're not going to, we're going to have a remainder left over, right? We're not going to get in there evenly. So let me just draw this out real quick, and then we'll take a look at what we're dealing with. And I encourage you guys to draw this in your place value chart as well so you can follow along with me. All right, so I have my 17 place value dots in here. So there's 17 of them, and I'm going to divide that into 4 even groups. So I'm going to put 4 groups down here. 1, 2, 3,
4. Not perfect, but you get the idea. And I'm going to start dividing these 17 dots into those 4 even groups, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So working evenly, if I put 1 into each group, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm left with this guy all by himself, right? I can't do anything with him. He's all by himself. I can't put him into a group because that would make my numbers uneven. So what am I going to do? Am I just going to say remainder 1? Well, back in 4th grade, we would have. We would have stopped there, and we would have said our answer was 4 with a remainder of 1. Okay, and that's technically not a wrong answer, but we can get a better answer, a more exact answer out of this. So again, right now we're dealing with this, right? 17 divided by 4, and we're saying that they can be grouped into groups of 4, but we're only going to use 16 of those ones, meaning we still have 1 left over, right? So what do we do with that 1? Well, if we think of this as a decimal, we think of the tenths place, I could take that 1 and I could move it over here to a tenth, and that 1 would become 10 tenths. Okay, so I would bring down that 0, and now I have 10 tenths, or I could think of this as 1 whole. It's kind of the same thing, right? But now that gives me the ability to keep going, to keep making this number smaller and keep dividing, right? So if I were to divide those 10 tenths into groups of 4, right, evenly into these 4 groups, let's see what would happen. Why don't you guys go ahead and try it out on yours, and then we'll come back and discuss it. All right, so I took those 10 tenths and I started putting them into my 4 groups, right? And I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That left me with 2 tenths left over here, and I couldn't put them in a group because that would throw off my group, right? They wouldn't be even anymore. So I have 2 tenths left over. So that means I used up 8 of them. I was able to put 2 tenths. Let me move this line out a little bit. 2 tenths into each group, and I was able to use up 8 of those tenths, right? So we could think of that as 8 tenths, and we subtract, and that leaves me with 2 left over. So now what do? Do I just say remainder 2, 42 with a remainder of 2? No, not quite. I can keep going. I know, how much fun is this, right? All right, so I could keep going by taking these 2 tenths right here and moving them down to hundredths, okay? Because right now I have 0 hundredths. If I move those tenths over, and this time I have 2 tenths. So for each tenth, I'm going to get 10 hundredths. So how many hundredths would I have altogether? Go ahead and draw them in and we'll compare. Awesome, I would have 20 hundredths, okay? 20 hundredths, which is why when I bring that 0 down, I have 20 hundredths, okay? Cool. So now, if I divided these 20 hundredths into my groups of 4 evenly, how many hundredths would I have in each group? Let's give it a try. I was actually able to use all of my hundredths evenly into my 4 groups. I was able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. So that ended up giving me 5 hundredths in each group. 5 hundredths in each group. 5 times 4 gave me 20. Subtract, and there is nothing left over. So if I bring this decimal point up, that means I have 4 and 25 hundredths in each group. 4 wholes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 tenths, 1, 2, and 5 hundredths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each group. So I was able to use that place value chart, draw out my place value, and we were able to move lower and lower each time to keep breaking it down until we were left with 0 as our remainder. Pretty cool, right? All right, let's pop back down to the kitchen to my Frosto Marshall Choco factory down there and see if we can apply this to what we were doing down there.
All right, well, thanks for joining me back down here in the kitchen. So we were able to figure out how we can divide some decimals, but I'm gonna be honest with you again. I'm tired, and they got these people coming over. I gotta clean up this kitchen before Ms. Walker gets home and has a heart attack. So I need you guys' help again. I have a challenge for you. If you guys can tell me how much I need to give each of the 5 people coming over in order to equally divide up those 8 boxes among those 5 people, if you could tell me that through an email or a text or message or something like that. Let me know exactly how much I need to give them and how you found your answer. I will make you your own sample batch of Frosto Marshall Choco cereal. So hit me up, let me know how I can figure that out, let me know what the answer is. Like I said, I gotta get this place cleaned up. There's people gonna be here any minute to pick up their supplies, so I would really appreciate the help. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.